Alright, betting on Blackjack. Betting on Blackjack, a now encounters breakthrough guide to make profits at the tables. Fritz Donkey Jacobs. Betting on Blackjack. Fritz Donkey Jacobs. This was published 2004, copyrighted 2004. Dedication. Contents, a bit of philosophy. Chapter 1. Chapter 2, can you really win playing this game? Chapter 2, choosing the right playing environment. Chapter 4, single double deck versus multiple decks. Chapter 5, playing strategy standard 21. Chapter 6, winning and losing consecutive hands. Chapter 7, establishing your stake and session money. Chapter 8, profits goal, knowing when to leave the table. Chapter 9, current loss balancing betting strategy, profits while winning or losing. Chapter 10, advanced CLB betting strategies and other variations. Chapter 11, what is the house edge? Chapter 12, what is the 46% rule for casual count? Chapter 13, a few words of Spanish. 12. Chapter 14, playing with a match, planning in Spanish. 21. Chapter 15, tips to stay within the game. Chapter 16, blackjack tournaments. Chapter 7, the readiness review of the checklist for success. Chapter 18, casino comps, making your play for play. Chapter 19, differences between recreational play and professional play. Appendix, using the CLB strategy for baccarat and index. Introduction. A bit of philosophy. If you're like me, you probably are fantascated the idea of making money the easy way, right? Maybe, maybe not. Well, I'm not ashamed to say it was one of the primary motivation analyzing the game 21 of the 25 years. My secondary motive was I wanted to walk into a casino resort and make serious run on tables anyone I wanted to be better than the game than the average Joe Schmo. I don't know if you call it vanity if you look it up, but there's nothing better than more exciting than cleaning up the 21 tables. There's nothing like having a group of people hovering around the table, envying your skill luck. Of course, you're heaping an increased bankroll. However, getting to the point to look at a time, money, and anguish, the old glitches, nothing else is worth having. No pain, no gain. You've learned all about the belief and I suffered enough pain for at least 10 men, but hey, nobody twisted my arm to get this game either. The bottom line is, you really want to be good at 21, you gotta suffer a bit, but do not much. But not too much, because of the words written here with the potentially take a lot of pain away. However, nothing replaces preparation, skill, strategy, patience, discipline, most basic discipline, patience and discipline, which are real keys. I'm writing this page with the intermediate with the serious of the player, more insight with the game of the 21 known of the blackjack that goes beyond the beginner's ABC. I'm assuming the point being now with the basic game that they don't have being explained, offering the different perspectives on how to possibly win with the game other than a card counting. Maybe refreshing for a change, but who does the count aren't having a whole lot of fun playing the game. They're just concentrating with the cards coming out of that is it. No, there's anything wrong with that. It's just that I believe that the person can still make money at the game without working hard at it. Have element of fun existing without tracking high cards and low cards versus all cards that haven't been shown. No, then playing fun. Now then playing for fun, play for the living of the two very different things. I ought to know I've done living and believe that when I say it takes some nerves of steel. A lot of patience, nervous tension, make it along with plenty of frustration, anguish, not to mention a huge bankroll to make your daily score worth the effort, playing with a no-fear attitude with essential big score at the tables. Again, this book is intermediate serious 21 player with a want to be a good stand with a much better of the average chance of the beating in the casino. But the page will help you do, but I can promise you that you'll win every time, but you will win most of the time. I can't promise you that you win every time, but you win most of the time. My method is based on analyzing the probability of the existence of the game. Isn't going another how to play with the use of the basic strategy book. God knows there's enough of them out there. However, to uncover the proper playing strategy based on the certain deck configurations, most people that do not know 21 playing strategy differs from single to multiple deck configurations. How you play the cards and sometimes dramatically change when You go from one to the other, also amount for each of the hand with a based on probability winning of the sequence of the hand with a key component strategy uncovered within this book. Most folks who go to the casino would, of course, love to win, but they do expect usually or not because they have the wrapped up idea of the losing is giving and having the high expectations not realistic. I'm so tired of hearing reasoning from the people that I could just make scream. How many times have you said to yourself and heard someone say, yeah, I'm going out to Vegas to make you my donation? Or will you go up to there to lose a little dough and have some fun? I can't believe how these people were slaves all the year around to make a living would complain that they are not getting the bonus of the raise yet, but they have no problem blowing off 1/10 of the 1/20 of the income over the table, and not to mention the slot machine, the video poker. Don't ever get started on those casinos. Literally have the license to steal that if they have slots and video poker. Nearly all casinos have them. No, then ask yourselves how anybody would expect to win if they do not prepare themselves. Gambling is a serious business. To win, you have it. They have the cheer, but they do not think of the moment if the casinos will lie down and let you win, but because of the good looks and other reasons, casinos are focused on making personal funds dwindle by the minute with the make of the gambling environment so pleasing, so comfortable. When you do begin to lose, you won't mind so much, and gradually deception by saying when you go on vacation, take a weekend off the go gaming resort that you can't have fun. I'm emphasizing that when you're at the table to be serious and skilled, stay focused, know your knowledge, know your game odds, limitations both mental and financial. Most of all, know yourself with analyzing, varying, playing strategies, betting on the strategies, statistics, attitudes together. I hope you will be able to successfully show that the counting cards is not the only way to win the game. Many strategies that will sound extremely unorthodox to many of the experienced player with the professional. However, remember the expression of the reading. The proof is in the pudding. Do not believe it. Just watch yourself at the table to watch the action. You'll see what the strategies lay out of the upcoming chapters actually do play out. And remember, the most important ingredient is discipline. Without ever I talk about here and incoming chapters is meaningless. Chapter 2, can you really win playing this game? The real answer is no. You really were not expecting that, where you really can't win, at least not for long stretches of the table. The house edge will most certainly grind your stakes to $0. Believe it is also a mathematical certainty. The longer you expose your money to the casino, the greater chance of you taking it in the short of them while reading the book, because you can win in the short term. Short term, by definition, is a realistic, profitable goal that can be attained in at least 2 hours. Now, there is a caveat with the statement you, the player, must be prepared to say as long as it takes to reach your profit or loss goal that may take longer than 2 hours. Sometimes you'll get stuck not reaching either, which is known as trading dollars with a casino. And if it happens, my advice is just get up and leave with marginal profits of taking the break over the final table and isn't static as the one you left. The situation helps you at all of this, and it's just part of the weird phenomenon that happens when playing the game. Real question here is, do you really want to win? I ask the question because I am convinced that some of the people that don't want to, but the review that correlate between the winner acquiring skill that it takes to be one. If you had to perform brain surgery, you didn't have the training of the would-be, the chance of the performing surgery successfully not very good thinking, but therefore literally hundreds of thousands of folks annually trying to perform equivalent of the brain surgery of the tables for which they have no training. Here's the funny part, most of them aren't interested in getting either. And crazy, isn't it? Folks spend a week studying, which is new for refrigerator, big screen television to buy, but they won't spend second analysis on the games. A chance where they often spend 2 to 3 times as much of the time in which they are vacating on it or gaming outing. I believe it's mainly because they really don't understand the magnitude of how much they really don't know before playing. Lights and marquee sounds of the casino, all distracting curves with plunk down with the hard-earned money with a cry to hell with the odds of the full spread ahead. It's so funny when I fly to Las Vegas, everyone over the plane they're excited with the bragging how they will rake the bucks in, clearly unholy Vegas clock, but on the way home I can almost hear the pin drop on the plane. Everyone's also solemn. Of course, there's ones who got their clocks clean and they were defeated with Las Vegas, but their own lunacy, they admit it or they don't think so. I'd be willing to wager a fewer than 1% of the visitors who go to Las Vegas any of the gambling mecca of the taking of the time to train themselves the game of 21, any of the other of the matter, as long as the folks believe that they can do battle with no weapons training, but the casino will keep getting bigger and better each year that passes. I hope it will be able to drive the point home as continuing, which reminds me of the story of the going ending that illustrates the point exceptional well. I was one of my research trips over the early 19s, a young man about the age of 21 or 22, with playing 21 tables in Reno. I've turned out with the last extravagance We were shipping out on a submarine. He and I started talking about the game, but he didn't know much about it. But figured he might make a few bucks, but before shipping out, asked him how long I'd been playing at the table, and he said just about 3 hours and wasn't doing really well. He had about $110 in front of him. He was betting $5 on each and every hand. As we talked and continued to lose about $10 every 5 minutes, I knew he wasn't going to last very long. I asked him if he'd ever picked up a book on the game, and he asked no, but he played aboard a ship all the time, knew the very basics. As he complimented me on my play, realizing in my playing for just 10 and 15 minutes, I had almost doubled my initial buy, and he asked how I knew how to play certain hands, how much to bet, and would it help him out. Well, normally I wouldn't do this because I hate having to be responsible for someone else's money, which way it's always great advantage to keep it in mind, but somewhat of the push over the pushing, knowing we're likely the lonely serviceman ready to chip out, I agreed to let him help him only in some conditions where we met. He had the first time out and have a drink with me, and so we had to discuss the game in a little bit, and second that he would follow the discretion of the table while I explained to him why they were making these moves, and as he agreed that we went off the drink and talk. We talked for almost 2 hours, even starting writing the strategy of the napkin and coasters, you name it, and with totally engrossed with the lessons, with trying to impart, asking all of the right questions. I could tell with absorbing everything after all of the nuclear technician, so I knew that he had the ability to apply with what was I teaching him. We finished with the lesson and bar off. We went with another casino to try our luck. On the way, he said that he was down about $400 and had only about another $400 left. I told him we would conserve method to take it slow, and he would agree. We finally wandered into the casino. He had an empty $5 table there. Everything looked great, with even a double-deck game, which was fortunately well with all the fortune of the cover. The dealer was too young to know how to mechanic the cards. Reno and Tahoe, the double deck is dealt from the hand, and so I'm again to the dealer who looks over the 35 that admits of the dealing of the 10 years or more with most of the time of the casino when I'm playing. I get really nervous. I never won in this situation with the odds. Everything real, if shot over the wing, I make the book. Those of the odds are the real low, with the making it happen, really meaning some of the dealers definitely not up and on it up. Anyway, back to the story. My friend bought in at $200. Took my direction on play. I helped for about an hour or so, and I really started kicking in the high gear on his own. By the time of a couple of hours lapsed, he won about $300 back, and making the unbelievable comeback. But everything we discussed in confidence lit up the table. That I've given him the playing strategy card for the double deck game, and he is following with the strategy pretty much to the letter, but making such adjustments along the way. I went to go get something to eat, and he decided to continue to play while swimming. Smart thing to do when you're winning. You should never leave the table to win. I came back. He amassed about $425 in addition to $300 he won before. I smiled in pride, probably wished he continued success, and turned in evening going for them. Some of the rest I departed with. He thanked for the professionally, saying the would take for the money that he won by every book of the blackjack he could get his hands on before shipping out, so that there his little training can go by a long way where inclined want to understand the dynamics of the game. Chapter 3, Choosing the Right Playing Environment. Making the decision whether to play the similar to choosing the favorite play for the new day with a significant other diner, whether you want to make sure the menu has the right kind of food, with a great wine, with a great service, all of which optimize your chances of having a terrific night. But deciding whether to play blackjack is no different. Make sure to play with the establishment, provide with the key components. For the optimized winning trip should always be the prime concern. Chapter offer guidelines, finding of the casino with the right deck configuration, the most liberal variation of the rules, within analyzing the players before you sit down at the table, watching the dealer watching the floor supervisor of the pit boss. Finding with the right casino. Amazing as it sounds, may suppose veteran blackjack players still understand how certain betting options, rule variations can affect their play change for the continue with the win, with the opportunity, but they still believe with the blackjack with the 6-8 and single deck, whatever, with the showman now with the game became with the real understanding with the rule variation. Most of them don't. At any rate, with the casino, best option for the play with where you want to plug down with the money of the lucky of us with the rules variation, because coming increasingly most important with the casino market, with the casino now realized blackjack players are smart within the game, looking for the most favorable conditions in which to play. Becoming of a noticeable informer as an example of the downtown Las Vegas casinos, which provide more favorable rules for the playing, with the offset with the fact that they are not in mainstream Las Vegas tourist flow. Playing against for the right deck configuration, maximize your winning opportunities. You should play again for the right deck configuration. Give it a chance. They should follow the deck configuration, which I listed for the most favorable, preferably less preferably. I've also listed one with associated approximately positive and negative house edge percentages against negative percentage, but when plus percentages. Single deck has a -2, of course, but it's the most favorable to deck configuration because it offers the less unprofitable extent of the losing streak with a guess opportunity for the which, when, and which carefully explained in Chapter 4. Double deck configuration offers for the happy medium for the most players, especially those who like to play with no more than 1 to 3 players at the table, the less shuffling with a single deck, but almost of the same probability continue losing winning streak. Alright, 6 deck has a -42%, -42% probably already surprised with the configuration, more likely to have a longer extended losing streak for the first 2 with a higher low of the cards contain, sometimes clubs and sections in the shoe. Subsequently, they're very with the good over the extent of the periods, meaning more than a shuffle or 2 with the 8 deck is -5%. One of the even the worst of the 6 deck shoe with the channel Lexington Atlantic City play. While I really don't recommend playing against the type of the configuration if there is nothing else available. Other rule variation important to look at, but along with the approximated associated with the house edge percentage, are the dealer's stand on soft is a positive 15%, but the variant means if the dealer has an ace and the chick with the initial 2 card with the dealt, he is not allowed to draw any more cards. Configuration have the greatest advantage of the player because the dealer does not have any opportunity for the bet. The dealer does not have any opportunity to better his or her hand. Dealer hits on soft 17. Variant reciprocal with the previous one, with the dealer draws on ace and 6 with the dealers allowed to improve the hand with the drawing and never improving the chance of the getting of the heart, sometimes between 17 and 21. But please note, when situation cover the dealer can improve his or her hand with an ace or 2 with a 3 or even 4, which with an 1 card draw with not changing with any of the condition with a total of the 10 drawn is then there with no change to the final hand of the total. If the dealer has multiple opportunities to beat your pat hand, a hand between 17 and 21 is inclusive, which always is a disadvantage to the player with a double down on any of the 2 initial dealt cards with 2.2%. This big one, the option allowed the player to place for the additional with the bet with the equal to the original bet. Takes just 1 more card of the option. Generally, you for the player with the initial card with somewhere between 9 and 11 is hoping to get 10 value card against the dealer's up card. 10 or less, any favorable condition to make with this play with a player with a soft throw with a hand contained with a plus with a card with a 2 through 6 against the dealer's up card 6 or 7, 6 or less. The various strategy with the optimize the play with the presented in Chapter 5. Double down initial 2 cards totals of a 9 through 11, -1% of the option, but the the reason has less advantage for player with the previous double down option. Players are allowed with a double the bets only in the initial card total of the value with a 9 through 11. Which definitely limits their opportunity of getting the smaller cards to help their hands, and in this case of the player definitely looking at a 10 or a 9, even an ace to bring them to a strong 20-21 total. Doubling down on 3 or more cards left at 3%. With I know it's hard to believe with the casino with the Las Vegas with the other play for the competitive reasons, all with a double bet. You receive the read of more cards with a tremendous advantage of the over the house. The recommendation located with the casino with giving them all action. Usually 1 fine with the option, all offensive with the multiple deck surrender. Plus 0.65 with a greater strategic option with effectively allow the player to surrender half of his or her bet with an inspection of the initial dealt cards, not with the complete of the hand. Should the player receive the hand with the initial card with a total between the 15 and 16 with the dealer's up card with a 9 or 10 or 8, while the strong cards with the which are strong cards if the player believes that taking of them might break with a hand, the player can signal with the dealer that he or she wants to surrender. The dealer will then take half the player's bet and push the other half back to the player's surrender. Comes in 2 conditions: early and late. Early surrender allows the player to surrender with a hand and the dealer's up card with the ace for the 10 value card before the dealer's looks with the check with a possible blackjack. You with the advantage of the player with the late surrender player with the allowed with the surrender initial dealt cards only after the dealer check with the blackjack with certainly with less advantage for the player, but it's still not bad if you drew with a fifth hand with initial total between 12 and 16. Again with the strategy for the surrender for the game for the 10 for the ace for the indicate with the Chapter 5 at the end associated with the chart for the surrendering option often most of the multiple deck configuration games dealt with a shoe. However, the many of the casino with the now offering the option of the double the deck games of competitive marketing reasons. Splitting pairs at up to 4 times with the card splitting with a beneficial option with the receive with the 2 like value cards, but only if the split value with the 10 value cards plus the 10 value cards have with a good chain with the betting with the dealer's hand, but it does not allow with the need to be the 10 value card. Sometimes low value card will end up placed with a double situation, which offers extremely beneficial allow with the split cards up to the 4 times with the curve with the receiving the like cards in the sequence of allows you with the option with the opportunity with the again and again. You can in many cases leverage over the tremendous advantage of the dealer's hand with again with the option most prevalent again for the multiple deck configuration. For example, as above the dealer has a 7 card, you receive the 2 8 value cards of the initial hand placing strategy. Indicates you should split with the 8s in 2 hands after the splitting with the 8s. Suppose you immediately receive with another 8 value card that you can now make the 3rd hand. Then you can begin with the draw of the cards hand, and then here comes another 8 value cards. Of course, you would split with the 8 as well, but know that you have 4 hands going in the possible, checking with the chances getting of the 4 18s, possibly beating of the dealer, possibly 17. You will start with the smaller, becomes a huge opportunity. Double down after split with a positive 13%. With the here again with the try with the leverage of the maximize each and every opportunity dealt with the have the split with the card initially with the believe with the advantage with the now you get. The bonus because you for the next card with the hitting one split with the place with the likely position with the double you bet with the advantage at the same time with a quick example you've dealt with the pairs of 7 of deals. Has a 6 showing this is usually breaking with a deal with a split with a 7 with a 2 separate hand with a mind with a dealer with a 2 spat finger with the placing of another bet equal to the original bet the next with a separated 7 and now dealer places a card first 7 of the right and guess if we get when the 3 with the now your hand totals 10. What now? Well, of course, you should double down on hoping for the 10 card. You place an equal amount equal to the amount of the first 7 in motion with the 1 card only, but it comes with a 9 instead of the 10 with the 12 with the head of the right with a 19 with a definitely stand on the hand. Now you need with a complete with a hand with a 7 up on the 7 on the left of the dealer. Now play for the top 2 top of the 7 until over the 9 with which to move with the double again. Place another the bet equal the bet on the second 7 of the motion with the only 1 card again. You finally get your 10. You now have the 19 and again in second hand with each stand once for the against for the dealer. The dealer flips the bottom card revealing an 8 for the total of 14. Must draw with another card table the card. The card comes out with a bang with a face card with the dealer breaks with the butts over the her stand with a just realized with a great opportunity going for the 1 unit with a providential profit with a 4 unit profit. Double after the split with a great leverage profit properly again with a chapter of the 5 will show them when this strategy is best employed. There are numerous combinations of the option with associated with the percentage chain of the various decks of the configuration. There are many websites that will compute with a special inquiry rule variation given the set of the rule one of the best is wizardofodds.com. I do encourage everyone to find out the rules options of the casino, compute them into the internet, and then decide if it's a place where you'd like to play. Believe it when I tell you the game of the meccas of Las Vegas with the hundreds of casinos, all different rule variations. Smarter player always figures the best size before walking in, make sure to do the same. Analyzing how others bet before joining the game. As you begin with the analyze of the play, you should analyze the play of the others, how some of the definitely affect the outcome, and each of the hand with the director dealt with across the table, so sequence determines if the dealer will break with a hand or not. Of course, many of the players argue with the point that I recommend that you always do the table to action for at least 5 minutes prior to sitting down. There's nothing worse than sitting down $25 table to betting at anywhere from $25 to $100, having some idiot 2 minutes for to decide how to play with the cards, and discriminating for the pair of the cards should never been hit on standard cards that have been hit. The type of play will most definitely irritate you because of the concentration, especially the type of the player with the playing third base, the last position on the table. They almost always take with the dealer's break card. Shouldn't and doesn't take with the dealer's low pack card, but he should with the pack card is card that makes the hand somewhere between 17 and 21 inclusive. Of course, it's totally disruptive. Also watches out for the other players constantly complaining about the cards for getting them. If they can't take the heat, they shouldn't be playing on the end of the discussion. And then, of course, the complaints can be the monster irritant with the currently used red flag not to have taken the seat at the table. I'm one of the research chiefs at Caesars at Lake Tahoe over the early 90s. I was playing a $5 table at third base between 10 and 15 units with another guy, but the first base was playing $25 to $50 herons. It was about 3 a.m. when the casino was almost empty, both with the grading of the money wise, with the conservatively, with the perfect scenario. The shoe was being good to us, where we're only with a 20-minute streak with a predominantly player hands on the new, but always too with it be good true, but it comes with a good guy with a total good goof as they stand in the business with the early 40s wearing one of those pro football windbreakers, stinking drunk, real class act. He was sitting down about $400 green in with the $25 chips. He dealt this hand a 10 and 2, And the meanwhile, the dealer was asked the guy for the first base if he want to hit. The first guy played with his card and got goof and begins to yelp at the top of his lungs, "Nine of hearts, nine of hearts." And I think it's the guy nuts or something. It just gets to the nine, but that he would cool. But the nine of hearts, you get the grip of the fell with every hand that he hits. The split, the double, the variable yells out that they wouldn't need for the suit. This might be the gap for the really getting me with the aggregate agitated, but couldn't play with the wood lick of the woods drawing with the cards. No particular strategy for that. Couldn't recognize it. You guess and should immediately went sour on it. For this guy was drawing cards until the cows came home and they began losing big. The crazy man finally fell, but he began winning again. Felt reinforcing my theory that the shoe's composition may be defective with how many players play. Players against those. Why I suggest that you always observe all the players prior to sitting down, which will inevitably save you the grief of the money of the unneeded stress of the mention of the pull out of the morons like one of the described. To quote a greater character, Gordon Gekko, from the movie Wall Street with a fool with the money, looking enough to give them first place, to get enough struggling into the ridiculous situation was to stay a couple of hands, but if you lost 5 straight with a win one and lost 5 straight again, get the heck away from the table. To let me say this in another way. If you lose more than 5 hands straight, if you're a novice with a minimum break roll, leave, run, don't walk. We don't wait for the 21 doom to squash your confidence of the bankroll. Beside with nothing worse than starting at the shoe with immediately starting demolishing your bankroll. We're talking about getting in a single winning hand. If you're sitting down after the shoe like with a really leave the confidence experience goes like that, attitude will affect your playing style of the remainder shoe, but certainly with a session in almost all cases. Watching the dealers. Assuming you've observed the players watching the dealers well, I've always been a true believer in the karma. If you observe the dealer dealing extremely fast with the rushing of the player, with the hear of the dealer, with being rude with the player, with the observe of the dealer being so in faith that it is bad karma, and in some cases the vibes of the dealer can really set the tone of the table, affecting the judgment of the other player, with the invariably hesitant playing with the cards with the correct, with the beginning feeling uncomfortable in most cases, the beginning wishing that he never sat down. Trust me, I've been in have a bunch of times. On the other hand, with the right karma over the table, it doesn't make the difference, regardless of the whether they're coming from the dealers or the players. Once I was playing with the tribal casino with the Auburn with the Washington. I passed with a progressive blackjack game where I had 2 elderly Chinese laminated ladies playing alone. I stopped and watched them a few minutes. I always do before sitting down, but they seemed to have the great fun with just 2 of them that were speaking the Chinese, laughing with the dealer, generally playing the hands correctly with a great success. While some saw everything going right, but they decided to sit down, join the ladies after buying and watching the ball $100. I gently nodded and smiled at these older ladies and smiled back, and I placed my first bet before the card came out. One of the ladies said to me, "You look like Buddha. We'll have much luck with you." The other lady giggled in agreement to watching me blush a little bit at the stock guy with a round face. I guess I with a bodily distinct and makes a resembling a Buddha, so be it with a big play, but begins well with doing pretty well with the first due deal with the shoe. The next 2 deals didn't go as well, but the Chinese lady remarked about me looking like Buddha, asked if she could rub them in my stomach to better luck. Well, I must admit that I have seen just about everything any record for the take of it before. Being a sport guy, what I'm sure of the why not, so she got up over the chair of the wheel, walked over to my seat, rubbed my tummy twice, and blurted out something in Chinese to the other lady, but both giggled, and they sat down. Lo and behold, the next hand with a natural 21. Her friend got 20, and I drew 21. The dealer got 18, of course. We all won with the deal. The player went on with it for the next 2 hours. Every time with a need with a better luck or with the one and doubled down with a split. But they first come to me and when they rub my tummy and playing with their card. Don't ask me why, but it worked. But almost every time and unreal. But I couldn't have bottled karma last night. Would I have? There's no explaining the situation. I was just there and all around us. Watching the floor, supervisor, floor personnel with a distraction. Your $25 to $500 hand, $25 to $50 hand, better, but almost always I with your action. Some cases come out and speak with a trying with the concentrate with the game, and especially with respect with the counting card with the K, with the sometime with the very T, with the degree, with the frequency, with the happens you to find in any of the area. Pit to play in with every casino leaving with a further in another casino. You never know with the bidding bothersome with the both average players could be in a casino policy. Most casino flows supervisor instructed to distract certain bidders, especially with the bet with the spread change with more than 4 to 5. You can with a serious action play with the typical with the old guard casino floormen guys who have been this into the late 50s and early 60s. This is not to say that they aren't really nice floor supervisors in casinos, because they certainly are, but they may be with a few extremely high caliber individuals who really care with making them me comfortable. While playing in trim with it, I receive with everything I need with the type of the dining, comms, the drinks, rooms, and show, etc. Some of these are also real services, oriented floor personnel, definitely nice for the encounter, but I especially like the ones that actually remember my name of the trip to trip, even when with the time, when between the trips and the weeks, even the months, so that they are amazingly you thinking about, but the many of the folk for the encounter, the shift, let alone within the week of the month, of the even of the 6 month. The bottom line. So now, after the concern at all with the bottom line should always be able to find with the table to where you're comfortable with, maybe you like with the way of the dealer's looks. Maybe you want like looking at one of the players sitting over the table, whatever, who knows the motivation might be. You must be able to pay attention for the happening of the table, the card wise, before you sit down and ask the players how the shoe was been. Ask the players how the shoe has been, and they say, "Oh, brother, we've been getting killed." Before God's sake, if it didn't say, don't say it. If the dealer was just standing there, no one at the table, but all the tables around him are full. But put two or two together, and he probably and would just now the last batch of players make a motion and sit down. With the dealer shakes his head, no, you're better taking his advice, moving along, and I preferably control. Meaning of deciding on everything. I usually find a table to where I can go ahead and head on the dealer most often at a $25 to $100 table sitting on my own environment for play. That means I control the situation. I need to add an extra hand to the game that I will and will not drop the hand that I can will, and nobody will affect even the game when they don't put up with the attitudes, complain with the drunks and excessive talkers, smokers, even that I have only one occasion, disrupted party goers. You get the idea. I'm in and out with a quick profit and smile on my face because I took the time to choose the right environment, the environmental I wanted to play in. Alright, single deck and a multiple single deck, double deck, and versus multiple decks. If this one of the understanding of the probability of the winning with a certain deck configuration with a better equally important. No matter how well skilled the player of the game, the lady of luck can turn a game to you and hold with the funeral service within minutes for the after you're sitting down with you be doing with the right drawing with a doubling down, splitting of the thing with the hands. Exactly playing strategies, tell you still lose. Hey, sometimes it happens. If it happens a lot with the composition of the deck with the decks, just want to call your own way with the call with a bad card fall. If it has been in situations where they did everything perfectly, I had a hard 16 with the dealer had 10 showing, I'd take a hit and get a 4 with the dealer would have the 10 in the hole with a tough hit with a push of the hard with the 12 the dealer would have the 19, and so I'm now taking about 1 and 2 hands either, and I'm taking 10 and 15 straight hands and pure misery of the best. That's why analyzing the game before sitting down with the page off of the screen for the taking of the time of the watch for the game with a few minutes, especially the shoe game, you gain with a great deal of important information for the composition of the deck with the able to be intelligent with to decide whether or not the dealer is making 23 to 32% of the break average, meaning that the dealer should be busting once every 2 to 3, 2.3 to 3 to 2 hands out of the hands played. Players table are playing as they should. You'll be able to casually track them out with the 10 value card, the 10 queen, jack, queen, king, ace, coming on the ratio with all the other cards. Seeing the dealer's up card continually is a 10 value, 2 or 3, 6 value. This is hard beneficial for the player with the most valuable information can be had from the price mainly in a few minutes with a good observation because in the shoe game is good or the bad situation can last a while. Dealer's break average. Dealer's break average. There are 312 cards in a shoe. The dealer plays for the cut, and on the one card, half decks. One place the dealer plays for the cut card, 1.5 decks from the back, which leaves about 240 cards left in the play with the 3 play with the table to play for the dealer configuration. The average of 10-20 cards per counting, hitting and spinning, the doubling, so on, and 240 cards dividing by the average of 15 cards, which equals about 12 deals. The dealer should break it at least 4 or 6 times during the entire play with the shoe. With the recall with the playing game, the 6 shoe with the dealer broke with only 2 times during the entire shoe, which is almost unheard of. The dealer break for the average went down with approximately 10%, subsequently bearing all of the players on the table. The shoe was really hot for the house, which went one and stayed away from pay very close attention before sitting down. Do not get up in the anxiety trying to get down and better before the next deal, but and get skinned, clean, and fried in 5 minutes. Deck configuration. Multi-deck games are best example of the games you must be observant of before you jump in because if the cards aren't failing, the player of the streak could last for a long time, sometimes 4 to 6 shuffles in the same set with the card with the U, but there's no rotation, but that's a lot of the time, especially 6 to 8 decks of shoe. But on the flip side of it, if you're watching a game for the favor of the player's streak, it also lasts 4 to 6 shuffles. This optimum, you should be in jump. However, after sitting down at what you believe with a favorable shoe, you lose 4 to 5 straight hands, get up and walk away. The chances are shoe with it being favorable to the house, and you can spend a great deal of money trying to make it coming around for the players. And believe in me, I've done with it sometimes, and I can't account them all. Single deck, double deck games are not subject to the streak of the multiple deck games are. If you have a couple of bad shuffles in a row, but they're usually the worst, and it will get. But similarly, if you have a couple of real good shuffles of that, usually best if it will get. With the rest, will show the normal distribution wins and losses. How the recommended playing ranging single and double deck configuration, especially with a double deck, the strategy outlined in Chapter 5 and the single with a double deck best suited for play. You will find most of the experienced player are the ones betting $25 to $100 table to preferring single and a double deck game with usually retort over the herd with the inexperienced player with a single with a double deck. If there's more shuffling in the player currently on the table, the money over response and statement. Would you rather win with more shuffling or lose with less shuffling? Generally speaking, with the most of the casinos instruct the dealers to shuffle a single deck every one of the two hands with the end to shuffle a double deck whenever the card cut appears. It's usually 8 hands of playing going head-to-head with the dealer with the shuffling, not a dangerous courage of the card counters, but necessary to the table of 3 to 5 players, because otherwise they would run out of cards, right? But please understand that all the deck configuration will be looked at in any study with the single and the double and multiple deck. As a side notation, even the multi-deck shoes, the 4 to 8 decks have the good points of the dealer can manipulate with the cards, or let's say with the walnut, and possibly extremely different and difficult. I realize that just opening a can of worms by making statement, because certainly now when you know what you're thinking and why, even if the casinos cheat, well, only some casinos cheat, and there's some of the obscure, the small ones, the large ones don't need to cheat because they get enough gamblers coming to their resort, extremely bad players, and simply dump their money, and so cheating is unnecessary. Besides, cheating is generally frowned upon with a legitimate casino of the community, so they're not prevalent, but it does not stop with some of them, as long as there are towns of Las Vegas, the Reno, with Lujan, and Atlantic City, where a huge amount of the cash are banded about with the unrealistic anyone to believe that all the games are up and up, because if it isn't, and it is so, but they don't care how many gaming agents are out there. Remember, the good rule of thumb is the bigger the money, the motion, they always someone the other looking for a angle with how to get a legitimately otherwise, and sadly more often than not is otherwise. Playing strategies for Standards 21. Now we come to the meat and the potato of the Chapter 1. I'll discuss the 1/3 of the overall equation playing strategy with the promotion of the discussion. There won't be big new flash, but I will show you the odds for the associated with the playing certain strategies, and run the statistics through my own computer program to verify each of the strategy play with a given situation, show the result of the strategies I analyze with the cornerstone of the playing of the game of the 21, the chance of your card counter, both methods showing that you have nothing to do with the count card and nothing to do with counting cards. So just stick with them, and I'll guide you with enough of the maze of the possibilities, help you on the chain that you should change your strategies. Alright, I can emphasize with enough of the importance just to know with the memory with the strategy I must show you with the unit of the table the common curve to make your hit with a doubling, standing with a doubling split with a surrender decision as quickly as you can. Nobody likes the slowpoke because you know that if it's tedious for the other player to take forever, make up your mind. Ever heard of the lynch bond? Well, you see the one with the coming with the will took along with the decide when the hands of the good news for the most casino with the disallow players to bring up the strategy card just in time, the same. It's still time to refer to them, so with the knowledge of the correct strategy they have is better over the concern of the both the strategy cards anyway that I do not have the blend playing with the game forever that I make your own by copying with the playing strategy charts I give you for this chapter. Remember to play the most favorable situation, risk of the time with the redundant that you can should play with the most favorable situation, single deck with a double deck, finally with a multiple deck 4 to through 8 deck. Shoot, although hardly even with this 4 deck shoot with any more, you'll find with more shoot with the multiple deck games than any of the others because of the casino with the trying either with the disposable with the play for the odds with the favorite and not with the players. It's sometimes difficult to locate with the nice double deck game with the linear rules. However, they're only out there so they streak them out first. Some of the casinos you with the double deck allow them with the doubling any of the 2 initial cards instead of the 9. Even instead of 9, they through 11 allow with double after split and late surrender as well. If you can locate with the game of the nature, give the casino all your action. It's the same as finding with the craps table. All out of the 10 times 10 times the X with the construct enough of the finding with the right game. It is important finding the rules literally possible with the game only with the beginning benefits you tough enough to win as it is, and you may as well find the rules to give you some of the best, most options and flexibility. Key points to follow. You for the sound money management, determine the best strategy, exercise with the complete discipline with it setting either for the high and low goals and limits. Find with the casino with the best rule for the optimum win. 4, choose the table carefully, do not be in a hurry. 5, try not to play with more than 2 or other players at the table. Never play with any fatigued or tired. Learn the basic strategy with the absolute, with the basic strategy, whether the card counter or not, with the mathematical basic, with the logic of the best way way of the play of the cards, modify the strategy using gut instinct. It is to feel the card count coming. If you have a literal card counting, or literally a card counter, or casual card counter, which will be discussed later. The following 4 charts are show the strategy for the single deck, double deck, multiple deck, blackjack with a modified version of the floor playing any of the type of the deck. Most of these are not new, by the time I've run information through with my own computer system, have come up with a pretty much same outcomes except for the few deviations. Just see which one works the best for you and study it well. Alright, single deck would be hard hand strategy value with the dealer's up card. The dealer's double down 2 through 6 for the 9 and 11. And 7 through 8 ace hit on 9s and 10s, double down from 2 through 9, hard hit on 10s and aces. 11 double down on all, 12 hit on 2s or 3s, split stand on 3 to 4, 3 through 6, and 12 through 16 hit from 7 to ace, and 13 through 16 stand on 2 dealers up card 2 through 6, and stand on all 17s. Soft hand strategy, and then the player spitting. We'll probably print these out, like you can get them off the internet. Alright, each of these charts have the 3-section hard hand strategy, soft hand strategy, pairing splitting strategy, strategy 1 hard hand strategy. For the first strategy, for the hard hand strategy, we'll call for the base, for the cover the figure, for the hard total, for the first 2 cards, for the devil, for the meaning A, for the card total, for the containing with an ace, and a pair of cards that same the value. For example, if you dealt with a 7 and a 5, with us for the total with a hard 12. If you have a 6 and 8, you have a hard 14. The important of the cannot know for the hard hand strategy, even if you have more than 2 cards. For example, if you have a 4 and a 3 and you're dealt with a 2, but then another 4, you still draw another card. But the dealer had bad 7, and because you have found with a hard 13. Look at the table. Look at the table, some of the figure 5, want to know what the strategy you should take in. You have the dealt with a hard 12 with the dealers, and 8 with the hit of the card, with the look across with the 12 column until the reach of the dealers. 8 column outbound with the recommended strategy. Your strategy on a single deck game would be to hit. Second strategy, soft hand strategy. For the second soft hand strategy, which you with the one initial 2 cards for the dealt with an ace. For example, the dealt with an ace and a 4, or ace and a 4 with the total is 5 and a 15. Double the deck and see figure 5 2. With the dealer has a 6 and up card, but according to the soft hand strategy section, you should double the down, meaning that you would be doubling your original bet, taking only 1 card. An important note, for example, that you play with the ace and 6 with a 7 of them now with a hard 14. You show the play with the remainder of your hand. You have the hard hand strategy section. Again, I'm assuming that you understand the basic hitting, but the standing, doubling down, splitting, and the surrender option. Strategy 3, pairing splitting strategy. The third section of the chapter chart show the pairing and splitting strategy, which you with the initial 2 cards for the dealt have the same bet with the 2s and 3s and 7s and so on. If you're playing with a multiple deck game, see figure 5 3. If you were dealt with the 2s and 3 of the dealer showing a 7 and a card or up, according to the pairs and splitting strategy section, you should split the pair to signal with the dealer that you would like to split with your opponent with the not to for the cards and play with the bet amount with the equal to the original bet with the new cards. Dealer separates the pair. You would be continue to play with the first card in the pair according to the hand of the shuffle, the even primary pair splitting until the gun as far as you can with the both broken hand. Then you would play with the next card on with the original split and continue playing as you have did the first split card. Strategy 4, conservative but effective strategy. 1, as I indicated earlier, I developed 3 charts playing with a single, the double, the multiple deck configuration, figure 5 1 through 5 3 through computer analysis. Meaning that if you were to play millions of hands, each the strategy of the computer would indicate the strategy of the most preferable and profitable. But in reality, we do not go to the casino to play millions with the hands. We'll either run out of the money or the die in the process of the playing. However, there are years of the experience of being somewhat conservative with the developed strategy chart. Figure 5 4 for the good of the most of the deck configuration is especially good for single and double deck. My strategy allows you to maximize the hands you're dealt without hanging your butt on the window. You're in splitting 8s for the 10s. You aren't splitting 8s or 10s. You're not doubling 9 to have the dealer's 2 card or so on. So for the nutshell, the conservation is yet effective. Many experienced players take an exemption with my strategy. Hey, but this is one of the writing in the book. I've learned that I need the training for the playing of the strategy to stay with the winning circle, but I should have shared it with you. The reason I even offer the figure 5 1 through 5 3 with the cover mathematically. They are the best play with my strategy figure 5 4. Even once of my colleagues up that you at the time is more conservative guideline is important. To know that playing these strategies are even the conservative betting strategy, but the discover the later in beginning in chapter 9 of the playing strategy chart with the split with your card with even the double down, but you might begin betting level that indicates you should do it, and I highly recommend that you refer to the chapter as you analyze the betting strategy because you do the work together. The playing strategy chart with the chapter with the app and designed to you to copy and cut out with the way so you can can keep them in a hand you can continue with this. So if you even lose for a while with the table of two, I recommend that once you copy them, reduce them with whatever side of it fits your need, to cut them out, and then should trim them down and laminate them to protect them from against spilled drinks and stains and even salt losses. I've hard to lose the cards on the side of that size, especially if they're somewhat larger and stiff. 6. Possibilities of winning and losing consecutive hands. Now we have examined our chance of the winning with the losing multiple hands consecutively. You do well, work with the chart with that create with the clear with the pick with the probability figures on the chart will generate with the taking the number 2 within the 16th power. Simulate with the wins versus the losses over the thousands of the hands of the playing. Take into consideration ties of it. Some of the times called push for the result of the wood round, even over the basic analysis figure of the 6-1. You see two ways interpreting the result of the regardless for the deck with the configurations. And show the I can't flip that. For example, if you want to know the chain with the experience with the winning sequence is a 4 consecutive hand with a row with a 5 with a number of 4 with the left hand column and with a percent with a 5 right hand column, which show with a 6.25% that you would have the maximum 6.5 to 2.2% chance of winning 4 hands in a row. Having the information helps you determine that you need to reduce your bet with the table the minimum. This information helps you with the deal that wins more than 3 hands of the row. Now with the odds for the working for you. Now you have the 59.375% chance of the winning of the next hand, but not bad enough. So if you did the reach for the number 59.375. Well, if you don't take with the push with the consideration, they occur about 8 to 12% of the time, and then split the remainder of the 50-50 between the winners and losses between the player of the houses, with a very slight edge, but getting going to the house because of the games, the edge of the more wins with the experience of the house for the real increase for the opportunity for the player with the win with the house wins 4 hands straight. You know that this occurs 6.25% of the time, and you also know the reach of the point with the house that already won 3 hands of the row for 34.37 of the times as you added additional 6.25% to the total amount, making 40.625% of the subtract with 40.625 from 50% chain with how the winning occurs, which gives you a negative 9.375 chance of against another win for the half of the amount with a 50% chance of the player will win the hand, and you get about 59.375 chance of opportunity for the player win. Just as that simple. As you can see, the more straight wins with the half of the guess of the row, the greater the chance for the player will win with the next hand with the base on the information you know with the construct of the basic betting scheme, and the will help with determining what with the next bet with the need of the base on the outcome of the preceding chart with the primary base for the analysis of the discussion. Some of the betting strategies discussed in chapter 9 and 10 based on mathematical probability you can now begin to understand no matter what the configuration of the single deck or shoe that you will win, and usually every 4 to 5 hands dealt with it. And this is now the say with the improbable you lose, or let's say with the 8 hands within a row is quite unlikely, especially playing against a single deck at a double deck game. Don't forget that you're trying to reach a profitable goal with the command of the detail of the little player before you're hitting a long streak of hands. Likelihood of the reaching the goal that really exists excellent is so getting excited because of the good of the news, but the coming is important to know that the probability is also based on playing perfect 21, hitting, doubling, splitting, and straining is required to indicate with the playing strategy charts in chapter 5. Establishing your stake in the session money. One of the biggest mistakes that I see the folks make within knowing how much money they need at the beginning of the able to seem to take the folks with the non-discriminating table and achieve the table that don't match the bankrolls. Why, I see that they do more poor schmo reaching the wallet rather than after a payday pull out $300 starting with the beginning with a $25 get mad after toasting all the money in about 15 minutes and wondering what the heck happened next. In the chapter you will discover why it happens over the how, the remedy of the situation, similar ones if you would happen to the money happen to you. Sessions money. Any session is a period of time during which to sit down with the play with a predetermined mental commitment that to reach for the servant and profit and lost goal for the profit with the goal within course of within a certain amount of the time because you are not always successful winning session right off the bat. You need to divide your bankroll into segments to ensure that some of the sort of longevity for a battle of hands. Think of it this way: showing up at the table with a proper bankroll associated with the session packets, like showing up to the battlefield with rifles and no bullets, and no one is right in mind with what to do and who would he. Relation between session and money in the stake. With your session money with your stake with the bankroll with the directly linked with the session money should always be a minimum of 40 times X. X is equaling your base betting of the unit in the table of the minimum that could be differently. Let's say X equals $5, therefore session must be $200 for a minimum of 3 session. Your stake of the bankroll should equal 3 times $200 or $600 total. You should have an entire $600 on you before walking into the casino. Preferably you should have no ATM debit cards with you. You should always take in a minimum 3 session worth over the money in which of the casino with the event with the losing of the first session stake that you will still feel good but playing wanting to continue the following the following pages are a list of sampling some of the strategy you might even remember the minute with a win 18 or 20 units for the discussed later with a have play with the 18 minutes with whenever that comes to the first and leave of the table whenever there. No, there's a variation to that we'll be covering on this chapter here. How do we arrive at the 18 to 80 rule? It's pretty easy actually. It is based on the rate of the dealer in an hour. Dealer deals in an hour. Usually 120 if it is just you and another player. An earning rate of about 0.65 per hand units of multiple by estimated by 140 hands vital. You should have a close to 18 units, approximately 80 minutes on average. Remember the advice of the recreational player with a professional, one-time professional player with a different rule while sticking with the advice that helps with the serious recreational player. So to the point with a recreational player with a squeamish without getting best with you high, but then you have the probability to stick with the 3 to 5 table that's the highest, and doing that keeps the session safe, comfortable, limited for the exposure of the two with a couple session. Go home with the ultimate doesn't hurt you too badly. Besides, if you're once a month player hanging out with playing with a friend, you probably spend as much of the 2 session lot of the buying dinner and the having drinks in one evening in the average restaurants or the bar. I believe on keeping gambling safe and sane for recreational players like with the 4th of July. The chart that follows should be used the guideline because no one can predict how much you will win, you will win or lose in any given session. However, after playing literally hundreds of the non-thousands of the session, definitely tell you with the table are pretty close to the truth. Close when you have the mastery of the betting strategy contained in Chapter 9 and 10. Sessions and bankroll, the best strength with the unit amount, session amount, the suggested bankroll, win per rate, hour, extreme bet. Making adjustments to your session and money stake with the alternative of the 18 unit, the goal of the 18 average minute, average table time, the complete for the most always remember the longer the time of the table, the better chance you're losing, hitting or losing with your losing streak, which can be humbling, but believe it, I've been there with done that many times. So alternate method might have this trouble. If you have $5, better than one to make it save with a 20 time of the units per day. You might consider the betting a $10 unit, looking for at least 3-6 unit goal with getting out with a miss may take with a 10 to 20 minutes. You within forthcoming strategies, but it have the benefits all you can get out with the cable, get out with the game quicker and smaller gain. You can also go with another table to another casino, do it again, making another 3 to 6 units that hits real fast. Do this 3 or 4 times daily, and you'll easily make up the 20 unit daily with the goal of the most capable that you can average 20 or 35 unit gain spread. Average play time just under 2 hours. What does the add up of the for the hourly win rate and about $75 an hour? That's not bad, is it? So now you're asking, what does it have to do with the possession of the bankroll? Top of the answer is plenty. If you adjust for the shorter playing time with the bigger units, you will still have to adjust for the total bankroll and section packet sizes. To accomplish $10 per unit, $10 unit size and smaller winning goals in shorter time frame, a recommended minimum bankroll of the 1,000 with the session packets around 330 to 350. Whenever we recommend trying this calculated accelerated method with the fewer than 40 times X session packets, always 3 packets on you because you could get caught in a short-term losing streak. The escalating bets could really get big in a hurry and wipe you out. And again, the important thing is you have the complementary bankroll that matches you have the bet units, so you can stay in the game. Here's a story to illustrate at this point. With the bigger units, with the no bet spread, with no too long ago, with my buddy and I were just having a drink with him, sitting on the sidelines for one of the empty, but not in the action blackjack table location at a local casino. We saw the guys let's call him Marblehead, betting his hand behind off playing with the table the maximum, which was $100 by some act of the God. He was winning at least 70 to 80% of the bet with the making serious money. My friend and I got up and stood by him at the table to continue to watch, and over the 10 minutes of the Marblehead finally invited us to sit down with him, and so we did. Each of us pulled out over the $200 packet of the session money, began to play with the middle table, the minimum, which was $5 over the first base. My buddy was in the middle of the table, and the Marblehead was holding up the third base. During our play, we started conversating with the Marblehead and asked him what the buy-in with the initial bankroll was. He said, well, I'm pointing to the current stake, but this buy-in was $180 in He had been playing only 45 minutes or so, but he had enough bankroll that his betting unit size was too high, not even close to the matching. And my buddy and I looked at each other with total amazement. We covered the marble had at least $1,200 in black, 100 chips, and another $400 in green chips, $25 chips in front of him, not to mention for every of the 5-10 minutes, so he would grab the bundle of the currency and then pocket the counter up then, and then which he had, which was aggravating to me to not, and because of the amount of the pocket would never change. It wasn't as though he was going to the cashier's change the black or the green chips every 5 minutes. He's taking in the front of them with very little elevator going up and down. 1 minute he would have a couple of thousand. The next minute he would have been down 1,000, and I wanted to handcuff the guy and tell him that he needed to be betting on a spread, starting with $15 to $25, escalating from there, using my methods, but he would not have been any of that, and he knew better. Actually, he did not know better from the first short term. By the time he was done, about an hour and a half after we initially sat down, he amassed about $4,600 betting like crazy, man. He had totally demolished the law of the probability within courage victorious, but did he? He was totally immersed in the victory and really good. Felt really good. My buddy and I were exceptionally happy for him because we both knew the victory was ultimate fluke. So after cashing out, he stood out there for a few minutes and shoot for the brief, and then he always happened to succumb to the greed and calling over the table. There was no one sitting over the Spanish 21 table. Sitting down, he plopped down at a $1,000 black chip, started playing, vaporized the amount. In about 7 minutes, one came to another $1,000, and he shook his head and said, "I guess I'll get this time wrong." He proceeded to toast another $1,000 in 10 minutes, but no bet with the spread, but not enough to session money, but not enough bankroll, but definitely not enough to table limit. He bet the odds of it earlier, but now it was the time that the odds catch up to him. As you probably guessed, the Marblehead got clean and skinned into the fried by the time the additional 20 minutes for the pass, all of which we had won, and he lost the casino plus the original buy in 20. This story, of course, is the great example of no discipline. However, the main impact of the illustration is if he had adjusted even with the best spread, he would have won almost twice as much he did with the first session, because every time he'd lose $100 instead of regressing in the base bet, where he would have lost only $25. He would lose $75 more than he had tried to each of every time, and he lost. The biggest issue is trying to bet a table the maximum with the ability to escalate, or getting a bet spread eliminates the possibility of any type of recovery after a series of devastating losses. Chapter 8, Profit Goals and Knowing When to Leave the Table. Alright, how much of it enough of the question? Everyone with an answer for the does not, don't they? And enough gambling can be addictive. Most folks have a hard time pulling themselves away from the table, though it was true for them, the two, for the knowing when to get up and leave and the take with a break with a very critical component of the playing with the game, with the people, the right line, staying on with them by thinking and saying that it's not enough profit for the time I spend with it. I can make with a few more bucks, then go. Okay, I know these things that I can turn around with a heads pretty soon, but I just stick it in a little bit more until it does. You've heard and say and thought also these things that you'd ever been gambling. A key component with except for the 21 is knowing that it, not just playing with a strategy, but knowing yourself. That I finally realized that after years of play, but the only way to get out with my skin intact with a tidy profit is knowing how much is enough to stick with it. No, I'm happy to say I'm finally turning a corner with a formula that works for me, and I'm included here with you with a trial with a certain goal to win 18 to 20 units of whatever you're betting. Step 1. Divide your stake into 3 equal packets. At the beginning with the session 1 money with the key for the other 2 session packets, and reserve the following with example to illustrate the option. Have the playing with your stake with the U for the figure in section, bankroll with the bet stretch after charter figure session 1. If you're playing table $3 table, you're going to need to buy in for 120 chips with your session 1 packet, which was 40 times 3. These sessions, your total stake will be $360, $120 at $3. You need to have that amount on you. If you're playing $5 tables, you need to buy in for 200 chips into this session with 1 packet for a total of $600 for 3 sessions. If you need to have this amount on you. If you're playing a $10 table, you need to buy in with a $400 chip with your session with a 1 packet with a total stake with $1,200 for the season. 3 sessions, you need to have this amount on you. Step 2, set your winning and loss goals. Once you've brought them to the table, your goal is to make with a 35 to 50% of the buy-in amount on the upside, with a 80% of your buy-in, and on the downside with here are some of the examples of different type of the tables. $3 table to $120 per session, $360 stake. Leave when your total in front of you has 58 units or $174. Go to the step 3. Downside, leave when the table until in the front of you has dwindled to $22 in session 1 and money is now gone in step 3. Table 5, $5, $200 per session, $600 stake. Upside, leave when you have the total in front of the 58 units of the $209. Go to step 3. Downside, leave when the total in front of you has gone dwindled to $36 and in session 1 money is now gone. Go to step 3. Table 10, $400 per session, $1,200 stake. Upside, leave when your total in front of you is 58 units of the $580. Go to step 3. Downside, leave when the total in front of you has dwindled to $72. In session 1 money is now gone. Go to step 3. $15 table, $600 per session, $1,800 stake. Leave when your total in front of you is 58, and the unit with the 870 with the go step 3. With the leave with the total in front of you is dwindled to $100 and $8. Session 1 money is now gone. Go to step 3. Table 25, $1,000 per session, $3,000 stake. Ups to leave when the total in front of you is 58 units or $1,450. Go to step 3. Downside, leave when the total in front of you has dwindled to $180. Session 1 money is now gone. To go to step 3. Step 3, decide to stay in or leave the game. If you're on the upside, you might meet your 18-unit profit goal. It is time to take a break and get away from the table. Once you're away from the table, you need to decide you're still fresh enough to play or still feeling positive, raring to go. If the answer is you have to go back for the table, you have the same rules, same discipline, and through the no. Take the money and feel good about with the discipline you've exerted for the show, but feel great with the ones you have to go home, get home because you've just defeated the bad guys you have draw to prove it. If you're on the downside, have a loss of the session 1 money built with having still feeling positive, fresh, and full of spirit. Go with the session 2 money. Do not confuse with the wanting to go, even when feeling positively they're down. The same if you're with a total negative, mad, losing session 1 money. Guess what? Time to leave the casino until your head is on straight. Go home. Tomorrow is another day. Let me repeat with the go home. Tomorrow is another day. If you lose the session 2 money, you're still fresh and feeling positive. Go for it. However, I really discourage doing that if at all possible. Session 3 money should be used as a last resort only. If you love the 2 previous session money brackets, if something else is wrong, maybe your attitude affecting the game of the judgment. His betting playing is what it should be. Having the thoughts I've gotten back to get back. Even and can't leave it without keeping my money, or if I have other idiot players who just leave, then I could leave and get the mojo on the table to work again, get back and even quit real quick. Think about it. If you're using strategy according to what I've laid out with both playing and betting in the black and white conclusion, you should have the playing winning session between the first and 2 packets of session money. If you don't, you should tell you something else is wrong. Could it possibly be you? Stay over the mind. Everything is nature, but be careful not to psych yourself out because it's easy to do. It's all that important to follow these steps. Do you really need to stick with my advice that even if you're just a recreational player with the answer for the empathetic guest, especially with a recreational player, with the one thing with the casinos count is you won't show up with enough cash to do the battle with them. Most cases they are correct and aren't they? And as yourself with what was the last time you showed up at the casino, you have the bankroll amounts I recommended, or when you showed up doing the ATM withdrawal 40 times X, what you needed, and probably never less no more than. Alright, the loan expired. Let me see if I can borrow it again. Once or twice before the total accident, again, if you have to do battle, you have to have enough of the ammunition put in the fight. One or more of these issuances, don't get confused wanting to get even with a feel positive. They're not the same with a total of the negative of the mad losing 1 session money. Guess what? The time to leave the casino until you head on the straight. I guess we read that paper. once or twice before the totally accident. But again, if you have to do battle, you have to have enough of the ammunition put up a fight. One or more issue that I have been playing with or getting with an eyeball with a casino manager with a pit ball to do with the variance with your bet. They will vary whether you just pick up your profits and leave. To get it harassed by there's an inconvenience. Shouldn't have to put up with him. It's just that easy to be made up to only $75 for which you're ahead, feeling good. Move with another table to even another casino. Do 3 to 4 times a night, and you'll be up to $300 to $400 even in the evening playing with a $3 bet. Really ain't bad. You know the expression of the bird in the hand with the too many folks try. The expression too many trolls trying to grind out the big win of the one session first table to win where you sit down when there was a casino have you been or by short hairs because sooner or later the cards turn bad and they are trying to get back their profits you made with the earlier play for the session money. You start with a does it sound familiar? Does it sound like you have done this once or twice? How many times have you said it to yourself? I've only quit when I was far ahead. Don't feel bad. We've all been there, and it's the most common mistake with the betting strategy that I discussed in Chapter 9 10, along with the playing strategy of the Chapter 5. Trying to grind out the big win will be a thing of the past. Chapter 9, the current loss balancing betting strategy, profits while winning and losing.